When a guarded man meets a woman who refuses to abandon herself while loving him, he starts to see what true safety feels like. He starts to believe that love doesn't have to hurt. And that's when his walls begin to fall down. But loving a guarded man also means knowing where your love ends and where his healing begins. Because you cannot fix what a man has not decided to face. You cannot love him into wholeness. You can only love him while he chooses it for himself. So while you love him, keep loving yourself too. Keep tending to your own soul. Keep filling your own cup. Because the only way that you can love a man who fears connection is by staying connected to yourself. It's by building your own world. All right? You don't pause your life because you're waiting for him to see that you love him. You're not proving your love to him. You're only allowing a safe room for him to come in if he wants to come in. So to love a man who is emotionally guarded is to become fluent in patience, but not the kind of patience that leaves you waiting endlessly. Okay, I'm back again. Today I decided I want to be consistent. Anyways, I'm back. You know what no one tells you? Sometimes, let me put a mic here. Sometimes the hardest men to love are the ones who want love the most. The truth is that they build these walls not to keep you out, but to keep their hearts from collapsing again. And if you've ever loved a man like that, you know it's not about fixing him. It's about learning how to love without losing yourself in the process. All right? So tonight, let's talk about what it really means to love a man who is emotionally guarded. Because I have been there. I have. You know, sometimes you meet a man who has learned to hide behind silence, a man whose heart has built walls not because he wants to shut you out, but because life taught him that safety lies in distance. And loving a man like that is not about forcing him to open up. It's about learning the language of stillness, about feeling what he can't say, and it's about honoring the rhythm of his trust, because his trust has some sort of rhythm. Okay? And when you do that, you start to see that, you know, guarded men don't lack emotion. In fact, the truth is that they feel too much. They feel too deeply, so much so that they just don't trust the world to hold it gently. And when you love a man like that, you cannot demand his depth on day one. You have to let him see that his depth is safe with you, that his vulnerability will not be weaponized, not now and not in the future, and that he can be soft without feeling small. Trust me, I didn't really understand this when I found myself in that situation until I recognized intuitively that emotionally guarded men are just scared to show vulnerability, but deep down they really want you to look beyond their walls and see how naked they are in love that they can be. If you only knew how to make them feel safe with you. Now, I know it's hard to love men like that, but trust me, patience is all you need. And this kind of men, when they do decide that it is you that they want to stay loyal to, they do with all of their hearts, because it's not a decision that they made lightly. Now, when an emotionally guarded man finally truly chooses the woman who saw him beyond the walls, something profound shifts inside of him. Let me explain that in a minute, all right? Let me explain what that loyalty really means. For guarded men, love isn't casual. It's not something they fall into. It is something that they grant access to, and that access is sacred. Because they've spent years building those walls for protection from betrayal, from disappointment, from rejection, right, left, and center, or from feeling unseen. So when a woman comes along who doesn't rush him, who feels him without forcing him, who stays steady even when he retreats. She basically just earns a kind of trust that he doesn't give easily to anyone. That's just the truth about guarded men. And once he feels safe with her, she becomes home, not just emotionally, but spiritually. And it will be hard for him to break away from that woman. So his loyalty shows up in quiet, steady ways. Like he becomes consistent, not perfect, but reliable. He starts communicating more because she made him feel that his voice won't be used against him. He protects her peace because she protected his healing. He chooses her even in his confusion because he knows she saw the man beneath the armor. So when that kind of man loves, he doesn't wonder. He's not confused. He's choosing. He's deliberately choosing. He's not chasing excitement or validation. He's anchored on that woman because for the first time, someone didn't just want his presence. They understood his silence. So when he commits, it's not out of impulse. It is out of deep recognition. He knows she saw his soul before the world saw his softness. And that creates a bond that is rooted, not fleeting. So in short, his loyalty comes from gratitude and reverence for the one person who stayed when he had nothing to offer but walls. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they don't tell you this, but loving a man or loving a guarded man is like learning to speak a language that has no words. Everything is quiet, but everything means something. You will always get confessions or like, I love you sometimes, but you will just get presence. You won't always get reassurance sometimes, but it's in the way that he stays, even when staying scares him. See, these men, these emotionally guarded ones, they don't give love easily. So you've got to be patient if you really think that they're the ones. And this is the reason why they do not give love so easily. It's because they've been the strong ones too long. The ones who learn that silence keeps them safe and vulnerability costs too much. So when you love him, you will feel the weight of his walls, but also the warmth behind them. And that's where patience becomes your power. If you're not patient, better leave them alone. Because you'll be upset, you'll be questioning your positioning in their lives. Because when a man like that chooses you, it's not impulsive, it's intentional. It's not, let's see where this goes. It is, I have finally found where I can rest. I have finally made a decision, and that decision is you. And his loyalty won't always be loud, but it will be steady. It will protect what you've built like sacred ground because you reached the part of him no one ever waited long enough to find. He will stay loyal, not because he's afraid to lose you, but because you saw him before he even recognized himself. You saw beyond his defenses. You saw him, the him without clothes on, without the walls. You saw his soul. And for a man who spent a lifetime being too misunderstood, being seen is everything for him. So if you're loving an emotionally guarded man, don't rush his unfolding because it will take time and and don't punish his silence. Just hold your ground with grace. That's if you can. I'm not saying you should put your life on hold waiting for him to reach that decision, right? But I'm saying that if you really think that he's the one, then you have to be patient. Because once his heart decides that you are safe, he will give you the kind of loyalty that doesn't need to be proven. A loyalty born not out of fear, but out of freedom. See, to love a guarded man is to understand that every pause, every hesitation, every moment he retreats into himself is not rejection, but it is self-protection. It is his way of catching his breath in a world that has punished him for feeling too deeply. And your role is not to rush that process. It is not for you to pry open what's not ready to be open. Your role is to stay grounded, to remain calm, to keep your energy pure so that when he does open, he meets peace and not pressure. Do you understand what I'm saying? You learn to listen differently. You listen not to respond, but to understand. You listen for what he's trying to tell you in the spaces between his words. And you start realizing that intimacy is not only built through long talks. Sometimes it is built in quiet rooms, in shared silences, in a way that he reaches for your hand without saying anything. And that's when you understand that love is not always loud. Sometimes love whispers. Are you getting me? But loving a guarded man also means knowing where your love ends and where his healing begins. Because you cannot fix what a man has not decided to face. You cannot love him into wholeness. You can only love him while he chooses it for himself. And that's where many women lose themselves. They think patience means shrinking themselves. They think understanding means tolerating emotional absence and excesses. But see, peace without self-respect isn't love. It is depletion, and you're going to deplete. So while you love him, keep loving yourself too. Keep tending to your own soul. Keep filling your own cup. Because the only way that you can love a man who fears connection is by staying connected to yourself. It's by building your own world. All right? You don't pause your life because you're waiting for him to see that you love him. You're not proving your love to him. You're only allowing a safe room for him to come in if he wants to come in. And you're not punishing him. I see people saying, oh, punish. Don't punish him. Why are you punishing him? The reason why he's so guarded, and when I mean a man who is emotionally guarded, it's not a man who is flirting outside or sleeping around. And no. It's a man who, deep down, you feel when both of you are together, deep down his soul needs you, but he's afraid, he's guarded. He wants you, but he doesn't know why he's safeguarding his heart because he doesn't want his heart to be broken. So you find him operating always towards you. Right? That's a man who wants you, but he's scared. But you're not going to force him. You're only going to let him know that whenever he's ready, as long as you're still available, you'll welcome him. You know why? Because he is fighting a battle with himself. And he needs to find a way to heal whatever makes him feel that way. But while he's healing, you're on about your life. If peradventure you meet a man who knows how to love you wholly, then you move on. Right? But if you still feel like he's the one, then you pray and you make sure that he is there healing. And when he comes and he sees your boundaries as well. And he rises up to meet you where you are. So I'm not saying that you should keep your life. I'm not saying that you should just wait for him to find himself. The truth is that guarded men are drawn to calm energy, not chaos. Because they feel safe around women who don't compete with their silence. They feel safe with women who can sit with them in stillness without making it awkward. Who will not nag them or punish them, who can sense that their quietness is not a lack of affection, but it's a way of processing the world. And when you bring that kind of gentle stability, his heart starts to unclench. Not all at once, but slowly, tenderly, like a flower learning that sunlight doesn't always burn. Still, I need you to know that there will be moments when you would want to pull away. Moments when his detachment will make you question your worth, your place in his life. Moments where you would think if he cared, he would show it more. And in those moments, you have to remind yourself that emotional expression is not the only proof of love. That sometimes love is in consistency, it's in protection, it's in small gestures he never explains. And that's where discernment comes in. learning to tell the difference between a man who is emotionally guarded but trying, and a man who is emotionally unavailable and comfortable staying that way. If he's trying, if he's coming back, if he's orbiting, if he's checking up on you, if he's doing little things for you, then he's trying his best. See, you cannot build love alone. So while you give grace, also watch for effort. Watch for the little cracks in the wall where light peeps through. Watch how he shows up even when words fail him. All right? Watch how he begins to trust you with his silence. And when you see those moments, honor them. Affirm them. Let him know that you see his efforts, because guarded men rarely get credit for trying. They're so used to being told they're distant that sometimes they don't notice how far they've come. So to love a man who is emotionally guarded is to become fluent in patience, but not the kind of patience that leaves you waiting endlessly. It's the kind that allows space for growth, for honesty, for evolution. It is the kind that says, you know what, I am here, but I am whole, even as I wait. And that energy is magnetic. It draws him closer. It inspires him to be whole. It inspires him to heal. Because deep down, every guarded man is looking for a woman whose love doesn't suffocate him, whose strength doesn't threaten him, whose softness doesn't demand instant vulnerability, but inspires it. And if you ever find yourself wondering whether it's worth it, ask yourself this: does his presence bring peace? Does his energy make you feel valued? Does his silence still feel connected? Because when love is real, even the quiet moments hum with life. Even the pauses have meaning. And if you feel that, then stay a little longer. Give it room to breathe. But if his walls become your cage, then you owe it to yourself to step back. Because love should not cost you your freedom. And no matter how much you care for that man, you cannot teach someone to meet you emotionally if they're committed to hiding. Okay? So love him, yes. Deeply, yes. From a distance, yes. But love him wisely. Love him softly. Love him with a kind of strength that doesn't chase, that doesn't beg, that simply holds space. And remember that your peace is not a reward you give him for opening up. It is your foundation. It's what allows you to stand tall, whether he's ready to meet you or not. And that's the secret. When a guarded man meets a woman who refuses to abandon herself while loving him, he starts to see what true safety feels like. He starts to believe that love doesn't have to hurt. And that's when his walls begin to fall down. And listen, if they don't, you still walk away whole, because you didn't lose yourself trying to save him. You just learned how deep your capacity to love can go. And that is its own kind of healing. So if you take nothing else from this today, I need you to remember this. I need you to remember that real love doesn't demand that you break your own heart just to reach his. Your peace, your softness, your self-respect, those are the very things that teach him what love feels like. So keep your crown steady, darling. Keep your heart open. And if he's ready, he will rise up to meet you where you are. And if he's not, you'll still be standing in your power, not losing anything. Okay? So that's how to love an emotionally guarded man, or call it an emotionally unavailable man in that moment, who is trying his best to keep the connection alive. Okay? All right then. Until I come your way, just do know that I love you and God loves you best. Mwah! Don't you forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a video. Be right back.